Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode. This is episode 51 now. Usually we will be out and about, but today we are not. And on episode 51 now, we're going to be talking about um, the history of Brave Park and how I moved up here, and how Mark introduced me to himself. Now, joining me in the studio is the man himself, Mark English. Welcome to episode 41 this afternoon.
Oh, I get to correct you, Barry. 51. You're always so over the numbers, it astounds me. But today, it's episode 51. So, welcome to episode 51. And as you were saying, we're not heading out today. We are in doing some studio work, catching up on getting the technology, all loaded into the computer.
And usually we would bang on about what we do on out and about, but today we are not. Now, the history of Brave Park. Well, Mark wasn't here when I first arrived, so he can't really explain. But I came to Brave Park on the 5th of April, and it was an overwhelming time because I didn't know any of the staff or clients here or the routine. And the first month went okay. I celebrated Easter and my 47th birthday here. And that was a fun time, and then Anzac Day was to follow, and then in May I got homesick. Not good. And then on the 30th of May, that was when Out and About commenced, and Mark, who is in the studio with me now, we went on our first outing together. Here he is to tell you about it.
And in case you've missed it, which episode is it, Barry?
Number 17.
Oh, I was going to say 17 and then I wasn't confident. So, episode 17, Barry's right, it was the first time that we'd gone on an outing. We had met in the context of, Mark, this is Barry, Barry, this is Mark. Mark's going to come and take you on on outings on a Monday. So we got as far as that, and so we had our first outing, went to the Story Bridge, and as I've said before, very good learning curve for me because I just didn't realise how much more restricted the ground surface needs to be, so much more even and smooth, and without sudden rises for the electric wheelchair to be effective. And we did find that we were getting caught up on the ramps to get up onto the footpath from the road. They were just too short and steep for the electric wheelchair to be able to drive itself through. So good learning curve, and but we had a very successful day getting across the bridge and then under the bridge, sort of eventually getting our return taxi from outside the Story Bridge Hotel, which is, for those that don't know, under the Story Bridge. And but it was a great first day, and a really good first meeting, or I suppose first outing for us.
And the start of out and about. Now, getting back to Bray Park before I continue. Well, I'm continuing with Bray Park. Bray Park was supposed to begin on the 31st of March, but I was not well at that time. So like I just said, I came here on the 5th of April. Okay. Beautiful sunny conditions too on that day. And then April and May went, and then June started. Okay, and like I said before, with the history of Out and About, episode 21, well, before episode 21, we did episode 20 here in the studio, and I got the dullest news from the NDIS. Here's Mark.
Well, I can only guess that dud news was that they weren't going to move you back to Sydney straight away.
And that was correct. And then only to find out on May the 20th, okay, that I hadn't been approved, and I was upset about that. That was before Out and About commenced here. So May went, and then June came along, and then on Sunday the 13th of June, okay, I started to feel a bit unwell. We went out to Deception Bay. I went with another client, and I was not very well then. And then on the Monday, when Mark and I were here in the studio preparing to do episode 21, which was at Scarborough, of course. You may view that video. I had a mask on and I was coughing, and then by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was flagging. Here's Mark.
Yes, you were flagging badly. So, relatively normal, as in sprightly, keen, ready to go at the start of the day. And certainly by the time you'd finished lunch, you looked like you were ready for bed, and you'd really obviously deteriorated. So it became painfully obvious that you were unwell. And in an effort to get you back here, it's always the way. That particular day, taxis took a couple of 2.5 hours to arrive after being ordered. So we had a very long wait. But as you say, as luck would have it, that particular day was beautiful. And so, we could at least sit in the sun at Scarborough waiting for the taxi. So that wasn't too bad.
And also, Pete himself, who was staying at the holiday village, happened to have some strepsils that I could suck on. And their dog, his Mark.
Yes. So they were there for a short while. Just, I didn't realise this, but for those that don't know, unless you have a permanent site at a caravan park, you can't stay longer than 6 weeks. So, they took their new caravan and have booked many blocks of somewhere between 2 and 6 weeks at multiple caravan parks, and they're getting a very good experience of what it's all about. But back to Barry that day, as we said, they just happened to have the caravan parked up against the fence virtually where we were standing. And I noticed that Daisy, their dog, was there, unmistakable to look at. So it was easy for me to make sure that it was their caravan. And of course, then they came across and, we had access to drink and strepsils, etc., which made the wait a little bit more bearable. But gee, it was a long time, wasn't it?
And the total fare was $77 on the meter. And I can tell you, as we were driving back to base, I literally became worse.
Yes, you did.
And here's Mark to tell you about it.
Well, with every passing minute, you got worse. As I said, so after you'd finished your lunch, that was the beginning of the end. So every minute after that, you got worse. So from, say, 1 o'clock on, you just kept rocketing downhill, really.
I go,
Splat.
and splat is right. And when I got in the door here, and the staff did the COVID test, 1, 2 straight up, and 2 lines showed up. And it was pretty much the cancellation of episode 22, 23, 24, and 25. And literally, well, until the beginning of episode 26, where I was allowed out of isolation, but taking extra care. Here's Mark.
Yeah, so this was still in the, I suppose, height of the pandemic spread. And even though we'd all had multiple vaccinations, we all ended up getting COVID of some description and having to do the isolation period. And then, of course, the recovery is, whilst I didn't think I was that sick, it took a long time to recover properly.
And then, after June, out and about recommenced, we went back to Scarborough. This was on the 11th of July of this year, which you can all, that show you can view. And I had a mask on, but I was feeling much on top of the world then. So much better. And I should point out to you that I was meant to finish in August, but didn't happen. But anyway, the show went on. And then on episode 28, I think we went to Strathpine, I think. Here's Mark.
That may well be the case, but I have to.
No, we tried to go to the train station to South Bank.
Right.
That was it. That's it. And then after July ended, August started, and Mark, as you very well know, he wasn't feeling the best. The equivalent of me not feeling the best when I started episode 21. Here's Mark.
Yeah, so you were sick and isolating, and so he missed the following Monday. And then I think it was the Sunday after that I tested positive for the first time. So that was all but 2 weeks after you, and which meant another week of, a week of isolating for me, which meant we missed the show again. And so then it was the week after that.
And then Mark went up to beautiful Darwin for a couple of weeks. And here he is to tell you about it.
Yeah, so had a trip to Darwin and Northern Territory, so trip around Kakadu as well as around Darwin. And it was I've got to say, a great holiday. It was absolutely beautiful because I've been whinging very loudly about the fact that Brisbane got cold in April, and it was cold until really, last week, and then we had one warm day, and then it got cold again. So, running around in Brisbane in November with tracksuit pants and a jumper on because it's cold in the evening is not how it's meant to be. So, it's been a very long, cold winter, and add isolation to that, illness, all sorts of things. And I was very pleased when August rocked around and we could get back to some kind of routine.
So we'd like to take you in to September now. Okay, we did a lot of shows there. And we went to the Brisbane Botanic Gardens. We got to episode 40, and that was good too. So in episode 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, which is now completed, and now we are constructing episode 51. And my good news, okay, I've been approved to move. Here's Mark.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, you got the news that you had a meeting on the Friday, and that meeting said that your NDIS funding for the move had been approved. And then this Monday, you had your first planning meeting to start organising the move.
Yep, that is right. And I am very happy about it, I'm going to say. So, 50 episodes, guys, here at Bray Park. What an achievement. Here's Mark.
Yep, you're very determined, and in spite of you being fairly unhappy for a good length of the time, you've always been highly engaged with getting the show out and making sure that if you are forced to be here, that you make the most of your time here. So you've always enjoyed your days out, and even though you weren't getting what you wanted, your mood was always very good when it came to dealing with other people, getting yourself out and about, keeping yourself up and motivated, and you've persisted, and now that has paid dividends for you. So everything's approved, won't be long, and you'll be moving.
Yeah, so we'd like to thank you viewers for really tuning in to episode 50 and 51. And we're going to close episode 50 and 51 now by saying thank you for tuning in and being a part of the show. Here's Mark to close this episode with that.
Barry? Yes, thank you to everyone that tunes in and watches. It's a fantastic project for Barry to be able to bring the show to you, and he greatly appreciates the fact that people watch and take it in. Hopefully one of these days someone's going to give us some feedback. So it's the only thing that's missing at the moment, a bit of feedback.
So if you want to write in, the address is 23, that is 23 Mundy Place, Bray Park, Queensland, 4500, and we may even send you out some information about Bray Park and where we are. And please do include your return phone number and address. But like we say, if you don't want to do that, that is fine also. We totally understand that. Here's Mark.
Yeah, please contact us. Your privacy will be respected. And as we've said in the past, if you don't want to include your name and details, by all means, leave them out. But please still think about sending us some feedback or suggestions.
Or photos of where you've been so we can cover them on the show. Here's Mark.
Yep, so certainly in the suggestions pile, we're particularly keen. It not only gives us a purpose, but because obviously Barry's not from here, so
I was born here.
well, yes, you are from here, but not as an adult, so to speak. And that context of getting around to see what's in Brisbane has certainly changed in the last 20 years. So there's any number of places or pastimes that can keep you busy, and we're keen to see what we can that's appropriate.
And also, before we close, I challenged Mark into a game of bowling. Now, just in case you missed that episode, we've got the scores here to prove. And there they are. So if you're in the Strathpine area, guys, please do drop on into Strathpine Bowl, 245 Gympie Road at Strathpine. And here's Mark to tell you about what you can do at Strathpine.
It's not a bad day out bowling, is it?
It's not.
Yeah, so very entertaining. I would suggest it's a pastime for a hot day because beautifully air conditioned, and there is no rush to get your game done. They're quite happy for you to sit and chat and bowl at your leisure, and it means that you can sit around. And I actually thought the price of bowling was extremely reasonable considering it includes everything now. So You don't hire your shoes separate. You just pay per game and get the shoes and pick up one of the balls that's on display for use, and away you go. Couldn't be simpler, and it's a really fun pastime.
So we'd like to close episode 51 by saying thank you so much for tuning in, and the number that we rely on 24 hours a day. It's a community service. 000. Please do not call that number unless you've got a time critical emergency. 000 is there to help save lives. And 000, okay? It's their sole job to give you the help that you need. Here's Mark for his closing message on this.
Thanks, Barry. Yes, it's an incredibly valuable service, and when I say valuable, we do take it for granted that all my life you've been able to pick up the phone, dial 3 zeros, and get through to the support services, and then they will direct you to whichever service is the appropriate one for you at the time. But as Barry's already said, please don't abuse it, because if you're taking up their valuable time with prank call or an inappropriate call, then unfortunately it means that their job is that much harder when they have to slot in a real emergency in amongst people just creating distraction for them.
And you get no amusement from it, guys, so please do not, and we repeat, do not ring that number unless you have a life-threatening emergency, such as a heart attack or chest pain or unconscious anything. And that's where we must close episode 51 today. And join us again for episode 52 on Friday, and then again on Monday for episode 53. Who knows where we'll go. So, from Mark English and I now, thanks for your company, and we'll see you on Friday at Strap Point again.
Look forward to seeing you.
And look forward to seeing you. So until then, have a safe and terrific afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.